In terms of in-ring action, because I know that a lot of you love in-ring action to a point, to an almost orgasmic standpoint, 2014 was definitely a really good year when it came to that. And when I look back at SummerSlam 2014, there were a lot of matches that delivered an in-ring action. But in terms of everything else, SummerSlam 2014 was a weak show, just like pretty much every other show in 2014 was. Honestly, when I look back at the year of 2014, of the big four pay-per-views, only one of them produced, and it was WrestleMania 30. And unfortunately, SummerSlam 2014 did not produce that well. In fact, at all. And, SummerSlam 2014 had some big hits and some big misses. And there were more big misses than there were hits. You have on the pre-show RVD versus Cesaro. You did all this crap with Cesaro, having him win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which was good, and then having him team up with Paul Heyman and doing all of this crap that, since he's aligned with Paul Heyman, it's only used to promote Lesnar, so therefore Cesaro gets buried. And then you do all this other BS, and you have this match here between RVD and Cesaro on the pre-show, and of course Cesaro doesn't go over. Yeah, that happened. That was strike one. And then you open up the actual show with Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz for the Intercontinental Championship. I can say, honestly, that The Miz as a mid-card champion works perfectly because you know that he's going to be featured like he actually matters. He's going to be given an actual feud, an actual story, an actual string of opponents to work with. And it really is a shame that Dolph Ziggler wound up winning this match because Dolph Ziggler, in my opinion, as a mid-card champion is not good. And he gets treated like he doesn't matter, and he does nothing to show that he does matter, other than the same old BS. So yeah, Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz was not a good opening match for SummerSlam by any means, and then you follow it up with Paige defeating AJ for the Divas Championship. I was perfectly fine with Paige getting the win at this Big Four show in a big-time match for the Divas Championship. But the match itself was just bad. As were most Divas matches in 2014. Then you get to Rusev defeating Jack Swagger in this flag match. It would have at least been nice if the WWE actually thought to tell us what the flag match was. In recent memory, flag match is when you have to climb up and grab the flag from the pole. And now all of a sudden, this is just a regular match with two fucking flags at ringside. Yeah, this match happened. It was made to make Rusev look good, but this match was just not good. And speaking of matches that, in my opinion, were not good, Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose was definitely not as good as I thought it would be. You, in my opinion, gave it a stupid stipulation, and even on top of all of that, you still had the match end in interference. Why did you need to feature Kane in this type of a spot? Why, when the feud is revolved around Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose, do we insist on making it all about Kane? And that's why I hated Seth's first couple of championship title defenses in 2015, because they made it more about what's going to happen with Kane than they did about the actual champion. Kane, who, mind you, is in his late 40s, maybe even early 50s, I don't even know, who can barely wrestle anymore and is basically just there wasting space. Let's put so much emphasis on him for whatever reason, instead of the guy holding the goddamn belt, or in this case, the two guys that are the hottest commodities in your company right now. This match was overbooked, this match was overrated, and this match was not good. Seth Rollins going over was fine. Everything else sucked. And speaking of sucks, it just continues. Bray Wyatt versus Chris Jericho. For whatever reason, these guys just never had good in-ring chemistry. Their match at Battleground was a snooze fest, and their match here at SummerSlam was another snooze fest. You know, you needed to have Jericho win at Battleground to establish him again, and then you finally get Bray Wyatt winning this match against Chris Jericho in a big-time pay-per-view, in a big-time way, against a big-time opponent. So, positives, that was pretty much the only positive, is that Bray Wyatt went over. Then you get to Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella. And, you know I'm not the only one that was impressed with this match, because Stephanie McMahon, she looked fierce, she looked great, and in the ring, she was actually pretty solid. She was actually out wrestling all of the fucking divas on the roster at the time. And she can probably outshine Brie Bella in any way, shape, or form, because Brie Bella, in my opinion, sucks. Anyway, Stephanie McMahon versus Brie Bella in a very, very solid match with a very, very good feud and story. And when you get to the finish of this match, you know, Stephanie McMahon cornered by both Bellas, and then all of a sudden Nikki moves Stephanie out of the way and hits Brie. And even though it looked kind of predictable in the beginning, it still worked at the time. And I thought that WWE was finally doing something good with the Divas, actually giving them something to work with, something to run with, something to actually do, something that puts them in a spot where they actually matter, and putting them somewhere where people would actually take them seriously, people would actually care. We would finally get the Brie versus Nikki feud that we've been waiting for. Unfortunately, they had it last about a month, and then they completely pretend that all of this never happened, and they go back together for some reason. It sucks, too, because this match may have been the second best match of the night, and ultimately it loses all of its meaning because of what they did afterwards, and they basically had the Bellas reunite like nothing ever happened. WWE, even when they finally do something right, they take about 6 steps back and do something completely stupid. But the one thing that they did not do on this show that was stupid was Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton. I know a lot of you people are going to slobber all over Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose with your jizz because, ooh, in-ring action, and ooh, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. But Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton was easily the best match of the night. And I don't even think it was close. And you can take that Rollins and Ambrose match and stick it, and you can take Brock versus Cena and stick it. Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton, maybe it did not have that great of a story to it, but it was a match that actually mattered on the show. It was a match that got an appropriate amount of time. It was a little slow in the beginning. It picked up as it went along. It made Roman Reigns look good. It made Randy Orton look good in that type of a role. It gave Roman Reigns a signature victory at a Big Four show against a big-time opponent. What else can you fucking ask for? They wanted to build up Roman Reigns in whatever way that they could, and having him win here is a good thing to do. Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton is probably the best match on the show, in my opinion. And then you get to the main event. All of this, you get to Brock Lesnar versus John Cena for the world title. And this match, well, you guys wanted the belt off of Cena, so there you go. The match happened. There you go. You know, at the time I was really concerned because, you know, you had Brock Lesnar on this incredibly white-hot winning streak, and you had him pretty much squash the Big Show and then beat The Undertaker and his streak. And then you basically had him squash Cena here for the title. You were making Brock look almost too good. And that brought me a lot of concerns because you already had him break the streak, and then you have him pretty much squash the top guy in the company. After that, who was left for him to face? And I like that the WWE, and specifically Brock, decided to get off of television and actually see what the WWE could do without the championship, and for the most part, worked pretty well. But this match was not that great. You know, it was a squash. It was just not good. You know, Brock Lesnar won here, and you got all the other BS, and then you go to get Brock versus Roman at WrestleMania 31, which was a great match in itself. And I thought that Roman Reigns in that spot worked, and I thought that Seth Rollins in that cash-in spot worked. But I think it would have been better to have Roman Reigns versus Cena for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, because that would be an example of the top guy passing the torch. And in my opinion, Brock Lesnar doing it was not the right thing to do. But it worked out for the better, I guess. But I personally just didn't like Brock versus Cena because of just how big of a squash it was. I didn't. You know, there's one thing to have Brock Lesnar win dominantly, but there's another thing to have Brock Lesnar look like the fucking guy that can't be beaten. And if you want to do that, then you're not doing it the right way. But this match was not good. And in my opinion, a majority of this show was not good. Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton, match of the night. I think Seth versus Dean was overrated. Stephanie versus Brie was good, and then I saw what they did after that and made the match even more meaningless than it was. This pay-per-view, is forgettable, just like pretty much the entire year of 2014 was forgettable.